When Emma told me she had to leave town for a business trip, something in her voice didn't sit right. We'd been married for 7 years, and in the beginning, I trusted every word she said without question. But lately, her stories were stitched with inconsistencies. She would forget details, dodge simple questions, and guard her phone like it held nuclear codes. I wanted to believe her, to cling to the woman I thought I married, but a gnawing instinct told me otherwise. So when she kissed me goodbye with that too-practiced smile, suitcase in hand, I made a decision. I wasn't going to sit at home stewing in doubt. I was going to find out the truth. Emma had slipped up earlier in the week, mentioning the name of the hotel she was supposedly staying at. She said it offhand, thinking I wouldn't remember. But I did. And after she left, I booked my own ticket on the next flight out. Not because I wanted to catch her red-handed, but because I needed closure. The flight was a blur of anger and heartbreak. I replayed our marriage in my head, the laughter, the nights we dreamed together about kids and a future. Were those moments real? Or had she been living a double life all along? By the time the plane touched down, my mind was made up. Whatever I found, I wouldn't beg or fight for scraps of her love. I had already spoken with a lawyer. Divorce papers were in my bag, signed and ready. When I arrived at the hotel, my heart pounded like a war drum. I told myself I was prepared, but nothing could brace me for the sight of Emma walking through the lobby hand in hand with another man. He was tall, sharp-suited, his hand possessive on the small of her back. She was laughing the way she used to with me. It felt like the floor disappeared beneath my feet. But instead of charging toward them, I forced myself to stay calm. I followed them at a distance, my hands tightening around the folder in my bag. They went to the restaurant, sat at a corner table, ordered wine like this was their anniversary dinner. I waited until the waiter had left their table before I walked across the room. Emma's face went pale the instant she saw me. The man looked at me with mild annoyance, as though I were some stranger interrupting. "Daniel," she stammered, pulling her hand back from his. What are you doing here?" I didn't answer her question. Instead, I set the folder on the table and slid it toward her. "Business trip, huh? Then you won't mind handling some paperwork." She blinked at the folder, then opened it with shaking hands. When her eyes landed on the word divorce, her face crumbled. "Daniel, no please," she whispered, her voice breaking. The man beside her leaned back, smirking like he enjoyed the show. "Looks like your husband's figured it out," he said smoothly. I turned to him, meeting his gaze with a steadiness I didn't know I possessed. "You can have her. But don't fool yourself into thinking you've won. All you've got is the scraps of a marriage she burned to the ground." His smirk faltered. Emma, meanwhile, was in tears. "Daniel, I made a mistake. Just listen, please. I can explain." I shook my head. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something you don't mean in anger. But this. I gestured to the table, to him, to the lies. This was a choice. Every night you told me you loved me, and then ran to him was a choice. And I'm done living with the consequences of your choices. The restaurant was silent around us. Eyes watching, whispers spreading. Emma looked around desperately, humiliated, but I didn't care. For once, the weight of shame wasn't mine to carry. She reached for me across the table, her fingers trembling. "Please don't do this. We can fix it. Counseling, time apart, anything, just don't end it like this." I stood, pulling my hand back before she could touch me. "You ended it the moment you chose to lie. All I'm doing is signing the death certificate." Her sobs followed me as I walked away. The folder left behind like a final gravestone marking what we once had. I didn't look back. Not at her tears, not at his smug face, not at the ruins of a life I'd once imagined lasting forever. Outside, the night air hit me like a cleansing wave. For the first time in months, I felt free. Yes, it hurt, God, it hurt, but the pain was honest, clean. Not the slow, festering wound of suspicion and betrayal. The next morning, I flew home alone. The house would be empty when I arrived, stripped of her laughter, her presence, her lies. But I welcomed the silence. Because it was mine. In the days that followed, friends asked how I could have been so calm, so decisive. The truth was simple. Love without trust is just a cage. And I refused to keep living in one. Emma tried calling, texting, sending long emails filled with apologies and promises. I didn't answer. What was there to say? The marriage had already died. All I had done was deliver the papers to its funeral. And in a strange way, that trip wasn't just her business, it was mine. The business of ending a chapter, of closing a door, of reclaiming my life. Because while she was busy pretending, I was busy preparing. And when I arrived with divorce papers instead of flowers, it wasn't just an ending. It was my beginning.